Grace in suffering. And he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job 1 verse 21. In the midst of unimaginable loss and suffering, Job uttered these profound words, recognizing that everything he had was a gift from God. Even in the face of heartache, he chose to bless the name of the Lord. Job's responses teaches us a vital lesson about the grace that sustains us in suffering. Suffering is an inevitable part of life. We live in a broken world, and at times we may experience pain, loss, and hardship. However, as believers, we are not left to face these challenges alone. God's grace is ever present, offering us strength, comfort, and hope in the darkest moments. Grace to acknowledge God's sovereignty. Job recognized that everything comes from God. His declaration, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away," is a powerful reminder that God is a sovereign over all things in times of suffering. We too must acknowledge God's sovereignty and trust that He is in control, even when we do not understand His ways. Psalms 115 verse 3, "Our God is in the heavens. He does all that He pleases." Grace to endure suffering with faith. Job's faith did not waver despite his trials. He continued to bless the name of the Lord, demonstrating that his faith was not dependent on his circumstances. In our own suffering, God's grace enables us to endure, to hold on onto our faith, and to trust in His goodness. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, "But He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Grace to find comfort in God's presence. In the book of Job, we see that God does not abandon Job in his suffering. Though Job wrestles with this pain, he eventually encountered God in a profound way. In our suffering, God's grace is found in His presence, offering us comfort and peace that surpasses understanding. Psalms 34 verse 18, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." So grace to look beyond present suffering. Job's story reminds us that suffering is not the end. God eventually restored Job, but even more importantly, Job's faith was refined and his understanding of God deepened. Through God's grace, we can look beyond our present suffering, knowing that God is working all things for our good. 1 Peter 5 verse 10, "And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you." So Job's declaration, "Blessed be the name of the Lord," is a powerful expression of grace in the midst of suffering. It is a reminder that no matter what we face, God's grace is sufficient. We may not always understand why we suffer, but we can trust that God is with us, sustaining us with His grace. Let us, like Job, bless the name of the Lord, trusting in His sovereign grace to carry us through every trial. God's grace is sufficient in all circumstances, enabling us to endure suffering with faith, find comfort in His presence, and trust in His sovereign plan. Blessed be the name of the Lord.